I'm an American who's been traveling the world and living abroad for nearly 2 years. And although I spent much of that time in Europe, I have not yet had the privilege of visiting Poland. And that is why in this video, we will be reacting to Americans sharing their biggest culture shocks in Poland.
Three culture shocks in a new apartment as an American living in Poland. Number one, washer and dryer. I was shocked when I was told that this is a two-in-one machine, like a washer and dryer combined. In the US, there's usually one very big washer and one very big dryer. So huge props for this invention. Number two, ovens and microwaves. I was shocked to see that my oven also works as a microwave. Like, isn't this a genius idea? In the US, you usually have a very big oven and a microwave separately. I do, however, don't like how small the oven is here. Like, I won't be able to cook a turkey for Thanksgiving or like a very big chicken. And lastly, number three, two toilets in the restroom. I was confused as to why there is another toilet in the restroom. I mean, it's a good place to pee, but it does splash everywhere. So I thought it could also be a sink, but it's too low. It might also be something good to wash your hair in. Like, I don't know. If you know the purpose of this, please feel free to let me know down below. Thank you.
Who's gonna tell him what that second toilet is for? Because that has to be satire. There's no way that he thought that's for washing his hair. But we'll get to that in a second. For starters, I didn't know Polish apartments were that nice. He might actually be living in my dream apartment. Now, the apartment that I'm in here in Vietnam is spectacular. We're on the 19th floor, has all the amenities I could ever ask for. Everything's in walking distance. But that one has this one beat by a pretty substantial margin, might I add. So what I want to know is, how much does an apartment like that cost in Poland? Assuming that it's in one of the major Polish cities, comment below how much you would think rent for a place like that would be, because I want to live there. Now, speaking of that apartment, for starters, the washer and dryer combo, that's something that I don't think we have in the US. At least to my knowledge, I never really saw that until I started traveling overseas. And even in the time I spent in the Netherlands, I always used a separate washer and dryer. So I don't know if that's a Polish specific thing, but it does seem very efficient. Although, from what I understand, a lot of Polish people prefer to actually hang their clothes to dry them, which surprises me because I thought the climate there was pretty similar to the Netherlands, where you don't really get a whole lot of sunlight, which I would think would make it take a lot longer for the clothes to dry. But let me know in the comments if I'm misinterpreting something about that. Now, the microwave slash oven combo, that's something that I have never seen anywhere. I have yet to see that, and I just want to reiterate that I just love how his apartment looks visually. I'm actually fairly envious watching this because, I mean, the black appliances and the black toilets, I've never seen that before. I didn't know Poland was like this. If I had known Poland was like this, we might be in Poland instead of Vietnam. Love Vietnam, but that's a whole different level right there. But the microwave oven combo, that seems very convenient as well because you save so much space. And that's what I like. I like convenience. I like small spaces that are very nice and even a bit upscale. And it seems like that apartment right there, which I don't know if that's even a normal apartment in Poland. I'm sure that's an upscale apartment by Polish standards, because that's an upscale apartment, I think, by worldly standards. But to have that sort of convenience of having a microwave and an oven, we don't even have ovens here in Southeast Asia, which I dearly miss, as does my girlfriend. To have that kind of convenience and flexibility with one machine is spectacular. Now, as far as the two toilets thing, again, who's going to be the one to tell him that that is not for washing your hair? I really, truly hope he was joking, because that honestly kind of makes me cringe thinking about the fact that he might have tried to wash his hair or his hands in the bidet. Now, on the topic of bidets, it seems like bidets are fairly common in Europe. I only saw them in Spain. And I lived in the Netherlands. I went to the UK very briefly. I went to Belgium very briefly. I also spent about a day in Switzerland. I only ever saw them in Spain. So it's nice to see that you have them in Poland as well.
This is part 2 of culture shocks that Americans experience when visiting Poland. If you're someone who likes to drink mineral water or tap water, then Poland might not be the place for you. That being said, in Poland, yes, we drink water, but it's very popular to drink sparkling water, also known as woda gazowana. And there's layers to this because there's woda lekko gazowana, which means lightly sparkling. So you have like a tint of sparkle. It's very subtle, but you still taste the bubbles. And then there's flavored sparkling water. So there's like woda gazowana o smaku mięty, woda gazowana z lekkim smakiem limonki. Like, it's crazy. The worst thing is traveling to Poland in the summer and you're traveling with like 3 layovers and you finally make it to Babcia's house Nafshi and you're chugging along your luggages filled with clothes for the summer and Babcia's like, oh, jesteś głodna, chcesz się czegoś napić? And you're like, yeah, I'm pretty thirsty, I've been traveling all day. And she gives you a cup instead of like crisp fresh water. It's like fucking woda o smaku limonki, cytryny, and I don't know, czereśni. It's like, what am I supposed to do with this? Polish people also have this intense vendetta against ice. It's not really popular to put ice in your beverages, so iced coffee, not saying that you won't find it, or like iced teas, like they're still there, but only in like big cities. It's very rare to find it in like smaller towns. Also putting ice in even like alcoholic drinks. I remember I was at a wedding 2 years ago and I told the bartender that I want ice in my margarita because he gave me like a margarita without ice, and then he looked at me like I had 3 heads and I was like, kochanie. Also, it's pretty uncommon in Poland to have an AC, at least na wsi. But typically in Poland, you don't really need AC, which I know is shocking for a lot of Americans, especially Americans who live in New York in August, where you literally melt from the humidity. First of all, major misconception, Poland has 4 seasons. It's not the North Pole, it's not winter all the time, it's not Siberia, like we have summer. But even during the summer, when it's really hot during the day and then the sun sets, it becomes cooler. So the nights are pretty cold. You need a blanket. You don't even need an AC. Another thing, which is super major, and I can't believe I never noticed this, but in Poland, there's a difference between pharmacies and drugstores. So you know how here in America you can pop out to Target and let's say you can pick up your birth control pills, your chlamydia medication, your insulin, whatever. And at the same time on your way out, you can pick up your shampoo, your conditioner, your razors. Yeah, that doesn't work in Poland. So in Poland, if you want to get your medication, you got to go to a separate building, separate pharmacy. But then if you want toiletries, you go to Rossmann and you pick up your shampoo and all that stuff. But I absolutely love going to Rossmann. It's like being a kid in a candy store, especially like w Polsce. I don't bring my own shampoos to Poland because I like trying out the Polish shampoos. And they're also fruity. A lot of Americans would consider this an inconvenience because we're so used to getting things so easily and going to one place and get everything we need, but Poland is Poland. We have our own rules. And on the topic of convenience, everything is closed on Sundays. In Poland, Sunday is God's day. That being said, all the shops are closed. If you don't have milk, if you don't buy it Saturday night, you're fucked. You're not gonna get it anywhere on Sunday. But everybody and Babcia is going to church on Sunday. Everything is closed. It's God's day. So don't expect to do any major shopping on Sundays in Poland.
For starters, the water situation. So she said that Polish people tend to favor sparkling water, and I'm sure there's a very good reason for this. I just don't know what that reason is, which is why I'm relying on you to fill in the gaps in my information, because, I mean, I would think that sparkling water, especially flavored sparkling water, is kind of a whole separate thing than regular clear water, at least in my mind. I never really drink flavored sparkling water as a substitute for regular water, although now that she brings it up, I'm kind of craving strawberry flavored sparkling water. I might have to see if they have that at the grocery shop downstairs. We'll get more into grocery shops here in a second, but something else that she mentioned that really caught me off guard was that tap water doesn't seem to be as, I don't want to say accessible, but as drinkable in Poland. So is it a situation where the tap water is undrinkable full stop, as in you're going to get sick? Or is it a situation where the tap water is technically drinkable, but it just doesn't taste as good as the sparkling water? Let me know in the comments. Now, no AC. I've seen this a lot in especially Western and Northern Europe, maybe less so in Southern Europe, that a lot of people don't have AC. Now, here in Vietnam and in Thailand, where we just left, AC is pretty much mandatory. Maybe I shouldn't say mandatory because I'm sure there are people living without it. But generally, if you want to be comfortable in your home, you almost need to have AC because it doesn't really cool down that much. But in a place like Poland, where she said that there are 4 seasons, but I doubt that it gets as hot as Vietnam or let's say Texas, where I'm from, in Poland. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments. Let me know what type of temperatures you're accustomed to seeing in Poland in the summer. But I suspect the temperatures are still fairly pleasant. And I've made this point in a lot of my recent videos about other Western and Northern European countries. But I just want to reiterate, and I don't even know if Poland is considered Western Europe. Let me know if it is in the comments, but just that general region, from the Nordics to the Netherlands to Poland, everything in between. I feel like in those places, because of how the climate is set up, on a day where you're hot inside, you just go outside. Because it always feels warmer inside than it does outside, generally speaking, especially when the sun is out. So if it's a sunny, warm day, maybe, I don't know, 25 degrees Celsius outside, why would you want to be in the house? As far as pharmacies versus drugstores, or just having those separate specialist stores, I've kind of come to realize that this makes a whole lot more sense in places that are walkable. I think that for a lot of Americans, when you think about how sprawling American cities and especially suburbs tend to be, people don't really want to have to go to 5 or 6 different stores because that's going to increase their trip time 5-fold. Whereas in a place like Poland, you would basically be able to just walk to 5 different places, probably within around 10 minutes of each other.
Is it true that in Poland, nikt nie lubi ambitnych, meaning nobody likes ambitious people? I first heard this line while watching a Polish TV show where one older cop says this to a younger, more ambitious police officer, and it's really got me thinking. Coming from America, I was always taught to work hard and be ambitious and reach for the stars and try to achieve that great American dream. And I can understand how historically the previous generations were taught not to be ambitious because under communism, everybody was taught to be equal. But since the fall of communism and Poland joined the EU 20 years ago, I feel like Polish have a lot of opportunities here to go to university, get an education, and really advance in their careers. So does it come from a place of jealousy that somebody else is more ambitious and wanting to achieve more? And if so, where is that coming from? And why can't we just be happy for other people?
So before I even get into my whole monologue, I just want to reiterate, just like in my other videos, that I'm reacting to these videos in real time. So I am by no means co-signing on anything that she is saying. She is entitled to her experience, and I'm just here as an observer. That said, if we assume that this is true, which I don't necessarily think it would be the case, because I saw quite a few Polish people, at least quite a few Polish license plates in the Netherlands. And I feel like generally people who are moving to completely different countries where they speak different languages and have different cultures tend to be fairly ambitious. And I saw a disproportionate amount of Polish license plates compared to any other country that wasn't bordering the Netherlands. So I know it's kind of a snap judgment, but I'm inclined to believe that Polish people are fairly ambitious. But if we're assuming that what she's saying is true, which I'm kind of leaving it up to you to comment below if it's true or not, based on your experience as a Polish person, I would assume it has something to do with the post-war conditions in Europe. She mentioned that Poland was a communist country, which, by the way, I did not know. I don't really know much about the history of Poland. But what I do know is that in post-World War II Europe, at least initially, a lot of countries were really struggling in terms of resources. And generally, when we think about ambition, the whole idea of ambition is that I want more than the people around me. It's not even I want more for myself. I think everyone wants more for themselves, but generally it's associated with the notion that you want more relative and maybe even at the expense of the people around you. And I can see how in a society where resources were very scarce, that would be frowned upon. And I mean, I'm sure that you watching this video have relatives who were alive during that post-war period, so we're not that far removed from that period. Now, I might be completely misinterpreting this, but I feel like in Europe overall, this notion that people lack ambition, which again, I don't really think is true in my experience, but if there are people who do fit that bill, I think that's probably why. It's just a carryover from that post-war period.